Hello and welcome, Skies Above the Reich. Let's get started. We're going to play the Advanced Rules Long Campaign playthrough. We are starting in 1942. Now, if you were watching this video and did not see my other series where I went a lot slower, tried to explain the rules step by step, I admit I got some of the rules wrong, but I still slowed down a lot in that one. If you find this to be too much, I definitely recommend that you flip over and watch that one. It also uses the basic rules and not the advanced rules. For this first video, I will at least explain what I'm doing, and then we'll go from there. I obviously don't need to keep doing it over and over again, but I don't mind. I think this is a great game, and I definitely want people to understand what's going on. So first things first, we're set up. Basically, you set your little mat over here. You do need these 4 tokens. You need the escort arrive or exit. You need your flight limit, a mission turn, and a tactical points. Either one. There's a yellow one or a gray one. The other tactical points I put over here. So you need this pursuit map, 1942, with, I put the other tactical point with that one. You'll find it helpful. Shuffle your decks of cards. There's an oblique deck, a nose, a tail, and a continuing fire. This board is currently out, but it may not be the one we're going to use. That gets determined during the game. You're going to have these tokens here for your attack advantage. Just set them aside. Grab your staffel log sheet. Write down 1942 Mission 1. And then we also have a pilot roster. And in that pilot roster, you get to pick 6 pilots that start the game as experts. And how did I determined that by looking at 1942. You start with 6 experts, and there are 6 missions. So, so then you have to pick which 6 are going to be experts. Other than the names, there's no difference between any of these pilots. I picked 3 from the top section, 3 from the bottom. You don't even have to do that. You can just pick top section only, bottom section only. There'll be different colors. You'll notice that some are yellow, the other ones have a reddish background. That's for when you're playing 2 players. One player would control the top section and the other player would control the bottom section. In a solo game, you get to control them all. So I picked 3 from each, and those are my experts, and then all my other pilots are just off to the side, along with my million other counters and things that are sorted in a variety of ways. You're going to need 2 cups, one with these damage tokens and one with these collision check and also damage tokens. And off we go. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So just a fresh reminder, it is 1942. We do have a loss limit of 6, a minimum pilot of 16. We start the game with 18. And we need 15 victory points to win, 5 to lose. A minimum of 5 not to lose. So I am going to put out my sheet here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to roll for the map. Now, one thing I did change is I set up my dice tower here, so let's try it. Okay, I rolled a 2. And for the map, we're on map 2, which is actually this one, formation map 2. So we already got it out, so we can set these up. I was not expecting that, but that's okay. So now we're on to the mission type. Let's move this a little closer. So we're going to do the mission type. And we got a 10, which is an outbound mission. So we're on map 2, and it's an outbound. And then we get to figure out how much operation points we get. This is where we want the 10. And of course we get a crappy 4. A 4 gets us 6 operational points. So we just write down outbound, and then I'm putting a 6 next to it. And then we're gonna do the type of escort. And roll for that. I rolled a 9. That's a good number. Higher the better. L6S. And I like to write that right here. L6S. Okay, so what that means is the escort, since it's an outbound mission, the escorts don't arrive until turn 6. And then it's the Spitfire, and the L means it's a light Spitfire. So all that means is you grab your Spitfires and you randomly take out 2. The rest of them, they're not here yet, but I like to just set them over here in anticipation of their arrival. And we're ready to start. So now we do have 6 operational points that we were supposed to spend before we knew what the escort situation was. I don't worry about it too much because since it's 1942, you have one and only one thing you can buy, and that's BF-110s, which is your guys. So I got 6 points. I'm going to put in all 6 of my experts. Not even thinking about that. I did set my experts. As those of you who've watched my videos know, I love the luck skill. So every single one of them has luck. You could randomly determine them. If you are sadistic and like a challenge, go for it. But I like luck, so we're gonna do it. And let's see, anything else? Yes, we know we gotta get to, sorry for the loud noise there, the situation map. What did I do with it? Oh, I had it right in front of me. Okay, so we are on map 2 outbound, page 11. Let's set this aside. Sorry about that. I'm allergic to B-17s invading my motherland. Okay. All right, so we're gonna roll now for this. And I rolled a 2, which is this situation. So we have 3 damage tokens. The first one, I'm gonna move this off the board there. The first one is gonna be the rear guy there. So I think it correlates to that one. The second one goes there, and then the third one is there. Okay, now we have to roll for each of these. So we'll start with this one, 8, 9, and then 10. So the 8 first. Didn't happen, the 9, and now the 10. Okay, so none of those triggered. So these are all damaged bombers. So that becomes a 3. This is a 1, and that's a 3. Okay, moving on. We need to figure out if there's any anchored. I got a 4, so that means level and low is anchored on the opposing flank there. So I'm gonna grab 2 anchored tokens and put anchored on level and low. For those new to the game, this means that my fighters cannot go to those locations. It's impossible for them to go to those locations, and they also provide bonus values in the flank. The sun. I rolled a 4, so the sun is hightail. That's an interesting place for it to be. I don't think we've ever had that in the entire last campaign. Okay, so now for the big bucks. We need really high numbers here, tactical and flight. Okay, you got a 6 for tactical. So that means we get 3 tactical points. So this will go to 3. We're gonna be on turn 1. Now we're gonna roll for our flight limit. I rolled a 1, no. Our flight is only 5 turns. Well, here's the good news. The escorts are never gonna arrive. Okay, and then there's no contrails on this map, so we don't have to worry about that. So we'll go ahead and close this book. Okay, off we go. So we're on turn 1. The first step on every turn is move, and when your fighters are on turn 1, your move action is to just enter the board, and it's at a low position on any of the 4 directions. I cannot use that direction because it's anchored, so I have to pick of the other 3. This high spot is really attractive, and so what I like to do is, if you pay attention to the text here, you can go to any tail for 0 tactical points. So it's a free move to go from the side to the tail. I think it's also a free move up there as well. Yes, it is. So you can go from the front to the flank or the tail for free without spending any tactical points. So here's my reason I'm bringing it up. I can come low, and there's an arrow here that lets me go straight to high in 1 turn, but you'll see that I need to go, that's going to cost 1 tactical point to skip the level to go to high. So I would have to spend a tactical point to move from low to high. Whereas if I just come in here, I can end up high without doing anything. Now, I do want to set up some swarms. So I need 4 of one kind, a fighter, which they're all the same kind of fighter. But then I'm going to have the other ones. Ooh, this is a good question. So I was tempted to come in from the nose, but here's the problem with this map. Obviously, the attractive areas to attack from the rear are these rear formations, these rear elements. However, if you're coming in from the nose, you could have some really high numbers. Like there's a 3 there, a 3 there, and a 3 there. But this one's not so bad. There is a 3, but this is a 2, and that's a 2. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to put these 2 on the nose, and we'll do it that way. Okay, so that's my move. Just real quick, this is a formation map. There are multiple elements. The elements are outlined by these solid looking lines. So this is considered to be 1 element. That's a 2nd element up there, a 3rd element, and a 4th element. Things are calculated either by space, which is what this is, an element, which is all of this, or a box. These are considered boxes. So those are terminology you want to get straight. These are boxes, and then this whole thing is an element, and that's a space. Okay? All right, so with that being said, move. There is no return, escort, recovery, none of this happens. So we move on to turn 2. Okay, these are going to move to high. It's because we're going to use the sun. And then these are going to move up to level. And that's it for turn 2. Now we're on to turn 3. Okay, so now we're going to move, and we're going in for the attack. And then these guys are going to come in at nose level as well. Okay, so again, we skip all these steps. Now we're on the attack. So we will do the approach, engage, burst, and breakaway. If you are new with the rules, this sheet here called the attack sequence is the perfect sheet to take you step by step through everything. And then it even has a pursuit section, this is the advanced rules, right? So this is a very nice to help you with the pursuit section, and we'll go through that a little slower since this is a new video on the advanced rules. But I will go through this slow just to refresh me. So we shift the fighters from the approach boxes to the spaces. So remember, boxes, spaces. So, so all it's saying is I have to put my fighters on the map. So I can attack anywhere I want. And in order to attack like this bomber here, I'm coming from the tail, so I have to be in the tail space. This bomber has 4 spaces around it, a tail. These are the 2 obliques from each flank, and then of course the nose. Okay, so I'm going to target these guys. I think these are my juicy targets. So I'm going to come in. That one's on the tail. They're all the tail, but we're going to do 1, 2, 3. And I just realized why that is not a good choice. If you'll forgive me, I will take one of these and leave it here. So he would have moved from here to there on his turn instead of having 2 of them up there. And then this one, I'll explain that strategy in a second. It'll be very apparent. Now, just because, see, this is a 3, this is a 4. These aren't really good approach boxes. So this one's a very low 2. So I'm going to put a second one here for the 2. No, I am not doing that. I'm putting the second one here because I have no other choice. And I'll explain now. This guy's coming in evasive mode in that same box to attack here. And then this guy's coming from the front and he will assist there. And he will do direct. Okay, so that's high. This one's high. These 2 are both high. Everybody else is level. So they're coming in level. Well, actually, this one's coming in low. He had to, because there is no approach that's level. You're either going to go high approach, which costs 1 TP. So he's going to do a low approach so he doesn't spend any TP. And then that one's going to be level. Okay, so the next thing you have to do is you have to select their mode, which I sort of already did. They're either determined or they're evasive. So I'm choosing determined. Now, the differences between them, my other video goes through this in a lot of detail, but to get attack advantages, you have to be 4 fighters that are not oblique, okay, in order to get swarm, which we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 that all came from the tail, okay? They must be determined and the same fighter type and from the same approach box. So all 4 of them came from here. They were determined and they're all BF 110s. Now to get this one, you have to have a space with 2+ fighters. So we have this space here that has 2+ fighters. And then to get this one, you have to be attacked from more than 1 altitude and position. These are high with the two blue things. Those are high. And this one's, sorry, this one's low and this one's actually level. We're coming from 3 altitudes and actually 3 directions. So we are doing it all. Now, we don't get these yet. That comes later. But we have to decide our mode now. So in order to get swarm, those 4 that came from the tail have to be determined. So that's why they're all determined. I made this one evasive, and for those of you who watched my last series, you're gonna know why I did that. It's a trick I do. And this one here, it doesn't matter. He could be evasive or not evasive. I'm gonna choose direct because I find that the determined mode, you get more hits. You do more things. Determined, because here's the other thing. Evasive does tend to take less hits, but when you return, these are return boxes, so your planes take a while to get back into position, right? So if you're in evasive mode, you go to this box, and it takes you 2 turns before you're back in action. Whereas if you're in determined, you break away here, and then it only takes you 1 turn to be back in action. Remember, there's only 5 turns to this game, so we gotta be quick. In fact, I have to do all my damage this turn only, or otherwise I'm getting no victory points at all. So all the pressure's on me to do something right now. So this is it, it's all or nothing. Okay, so now we have to do a collision check. Remember how I said I made sure one was evasive? The collision check occurs anytime there's more than 1 fighter in a space, which is what's happening here. The collisions could cause multiple fighters to just get killed, destroyed outright, out of the game for the rest of the campaign. It could cause them to be forced to retreat because they had a close call and one had to veer away. all kinds of nasty, nasty stuff can happen. The thing with a collision check is if you're in determined mode, a collision check could cause these bombers to fall out of formation. They would fail what's called a cohesion check. But in this case, so when you do a collision check, you pick one of the fighters, and that's the one you do the collision check with. I'm going to pick the evasive fighter, because the evasive fighters get collision check advantages that nobody else gets. And we came from the sun, so they all have the sun advantage, so I'm putting the sun token on them. So I'm choosing the evasive fighter to do the collision check. It's a little bit of a strategic maneuver here. I'm using some of my noggin, I guess, because I want swarm. It is extremely important that I get this. If I picked one of these other ones, there's a much higher chance that the collision will actually cause something bad to happen. Now, there's a chance that nothing bad will happen, but it could cause both of these fighters to have to return or even get destroyed. And if that happens, I no longer have 4 fighters that came from the same approach box, because the check for advantage doesn't occur until after the collision check. So right now I have 4 fighters from this approach box, so I qualify for this. But if those 2 fighters, something happens to them and they have to leave, then I no longer get this. So this is my golden grail that I'm going for. So this little trick of flying in from the side and going evasive with a different fighter that wasn't in that stack is how I improve my chances. So let's see how it goes. All right, so I have to do a collision check. So to do a collision check, we're going to draw from this cup. And don't use this side, that's your damage side. And it's a veer. This would have been disastrous. So my long-winded explanation is paying off right now, and I'll show you. So we pull out our little chart for collision checks, and we go to veer. If in evasive mode, treat as no collision. Da-ding! Yeah! See, that's why we do it, folks. Don't listen to the designer. He told you there's all these good reasons for going in direct. Don't listen to him. Listen to the video guy. No, just kidding. Treat as no collision. If it was determined, so just play this out with me. If we would have chosen one of these and I wouldn't have done this trick, I would have had to choose one of those 2. I would roll a die. If it is less than the number of fighters, I would have taken a hit. So if it was equal to or higher than all the fighters, that fighter would have broke away to the tail position, and I no longer would have qualified for swarm. Now, had I rolled low enough and taken a hit, I actually still would have gotten swarm in that case. But now I'm guaranteed to get swarm, and I don't even have to roll a die. So the only disadvantage to this is normally this token would go on the board for cohesion checks, but I don't care. So I'm going to take this, throw it back in the box, or in the cup. Okay, so we survived the collision check. Now we select our maneuvers. So all this is saying is I have to decide where my planes are going to end up. So for this guy here, we're going to turn left. So we're going to roll and dive. So he's going to roll dive. So he's going to end up returning to this box here on the oblique side. Now, what I'm doing here is actually, no. He's just going to... They're diving straight forward. No rolling. When you're coming from the tail, there is very little chance that you're going to pass the plane because you're going the same direction as the plane. Now, the ones that are coming from the nose are going to very likely have to do a pass-through. So they're going to fire on the bomber, and then they're going to have to go a direction, right? Because they're both approaching each other. So this is the more important one. So he's going to do a climb roll to this direction. And this is where these numbers play in. You want him to end up this way. You don't want him to, or actually he could have gone straight through. In fact, That's what he's going to do. He's going to climb straight through. Because this is a 2 back here, so that's not bad. The ones, this one here, sorry. Trying to work around my phone here. And this one here is the bigger issue. See, I don't want him to go into this 3. I don't want him to go to that 3. So I want him to climb and roll to the right. So he's going to head towards the tail. So that's what selecting maneuvers is. Now we check for advantage. And I can tell you, we get all 3. So bing, bing, and bing. Now these 2 are real easy. They cancel hits. And this one lets me add 2 damage, 2 hits of my own towards the bombers. So we will use those as best as we can here. And now I do each fighter attacks. So I'm going to set this aside. I don't necessarily need this to help me here. So here we start 1 fighter at a time and we do our damage. So I got 2 fighters attacking here. I have 2 attacking this one, and then I have this guy attacking that one and this one attacking from the oblique. So I'm going to do the oblique one first. And the only reason I'm stressing out over the decision is because I have this swarm. I want to take down as many of these bombers as I can. This is my only shot. With the advanced rules, it looks like I have 2 more turns, but I don't. I only have this turn. And the reason is because I have to break off and pursue them. And in order to pursue them, I need 2 turns after you knock them out. So, for example, if this bomber becomes fallen, it's going to take me another turn to get to here, and then I have to use a turn to break off to pursue him. I need 2 turns to be able to pursue him. So if I knock a bomber into fallen status on turn 4 or turn 5, it's worthless to me. I'll get experience points for it, but I won't get any victory points. So that's the key thing. When you're playing the advanced game, you have a lot less turns than you think. So, so let's get back to where we were at. I'm going to do the oblique one. He has the lowest chance of hitting. So let's try to resolve him first. So I'm going to go grab a card. Okay, so he's coming in low from the oblique because he came from the low approach. He has a lethality level, and you'll sometimes hear me use the word threat level just because I interchange them, of 4. All right, so, and he's evasive. That's another important thing. So he's evasive. So let's see what we got. All right. So we're coming in low. Evasive means we use the blue bar instead of the brown bar. And it's a lethality level of 4. So he takes 1 hit and he does nothing to the fighter or to the bomber. And he does progress 1 space. So remember we said that he's rolling to the tail. So now he moves 1 space towards the tail like that. He does take a hit. He is an expert fighter. So it is Schmidt here. And I'm going to go ahead and cancel the hit. Like so. All right, so now we have only 1 fighter left. It's Adamite here. And he's doing a dive. So he's going to attack that bomber. His lethality is 3. And he's coming from the tail high. He's determined. So let me get this card put away. Apologies as I reach across the table. Okay. So he's coming in from the tail high. He's determined. Lethality 3. Ooh. Okay, so he's going to do 1 hit to the bomber, and he's going to take 2 hits. So we're going to cancel the hit, one of those hits that he takes with this. And then we're going to use his luck. So this is Adamite. So Adamite in Mission 1, he used his luck ability. Okay, so we're gonna, we mitigated all of that. Luck, by the way, ignores 1 hit. Okay, so we do 1 damage. Now here's the thing with Swarm, if you watch my last video, I was always trying to use these before revealing the card. I get to see the card, I get to reveal it. I actually even get to see what this damage turns out to be. I get to see the results and then decide whether I'm using Schwarm. So it's a lot more flexible than I was making it out to be. All right, so I'm drawing a damage. I drew, okay, a fuselage. So we're gonna roll. I did not get a 10. I needed a 10 to destroy him, so I did 1 damage to him. I'm going to use a Schwarm to do another damage. And remember, you can use them one at a time. You don't have to commit to both. So I'm going to do a wing damage. I did not get a 10, so flip this over. That's now a 6, and I'm going to use my last Schwarm. I really want to get this guy. It's all coming down to this. Oh, but there we go. We got an engine. And there it is. I rolled an 8. 8 is higher than a 5. So you don't flip this over, and he's fallen. Now, here's the first difference from the basic game. A couple of things. First of all, we get an experience point for the staff, 1. The pilot gets an experience point. That's not different than the base game. But normally we would get victory points in the base game. Now we do not. You only get victory points if they are destroyed. Knocking them out of formation does not give you victory points. So we stopped there. The other thing that you may recall is we would take all these damage tokens and throw them back in the cup. Not the case. We take all the damage tokens, we pile them up, and we put them on here. And then we take one of these bombers and show that that bomber fell out of the group and he has all that damage on him. That damage stays with him. And if we pursue him later, we get to pursue him on this map with that damage. Okay? That is completely new from the base game. All right, so we are done. We got 1 down. Now we keep going. I'm going to go ahead and do, sorry, I keep knocking this thing over. I'm gonna do these 2 guys. No, I'm not gonna do the, see this 4 is really high. It now became a 3 because of this, but I wanna get it even lower. Let's see if we can get this out of the way. So I'm gonna do this. This is a nose level. Okay, nose level, determined, and it's a 2. Nose level, determined 2. Okay, so he does 1 hit to the bomber, he takes a hit, and he progresses 2. So I said he was climbing towards the tail, so he will progress 2. So that means he goes 1, and there's nowhere else to go, so he stops there. This guy is Buttfargen. So he uses his luck. And yes, for those of you watching the first video, you know that I promised I would never use that name, and here I am. It was my son's request. He loves that particular pilot. All right, we do 1 damage to this bomber. Let's see if we can make it count. Okay, it's a wing damage. Oh, very close, but not close enough. So we flip this over. It's just 1 damage to that bomber. Okay, so that's done. Now we got to do Zwiegert here. I used, this guy took 2 damage. He had the sun. He's in determined mode. So when we do out of the sun, we get to actually mitigate damage with that. So let me roll real quick. He rolled an even. So he actually did not use his luck. He only had 1 damage done to him. The out of the sun saved him from 1 of the damage. So same thing's happening with this guy, potentially. So we're gonna draw a tail card. So remember, we're coming from the high tail. It is a 2 and determined, so he takes a damage, so we gotta roll an even. We did not. So the sun didn't protect him. Okay, if he would have been evasive, the sun would have protected him no matter what. There was no die roll. But if you're determined, there's a 50-50 chance. Okay, so he takes a damage. This one is Swaggart. So he's gonna use his luck. All right, and he does a damage to the bomber. This is the final damage to the bomber, so we gotta get good here. That's not good. Let's do a miracle roll. Nope, no miracle roll. Okay, 2 damage to that bomber, and he's done. Now we got these 2 final guys. This 4 became a 3. So I'm gonna draw 2 cards from the tail. We'll just do the guy on top first. Okay, remember they're high, tail, 3. So he takes a damage, does a damage. They all have the sun with them, so we're gonna roll. He rolled an even, so his sun token protected him from the damage. This is Kremler. And Kremler did 1 damage, so we're gonna draw a damage token. And it's just a wing damage of 1. Okay, and he's done. And I keep knocking these over. All right, so now we can do the final guy. Flip over the card. It's a high tail, 2 hits on him, 1 hit on the bomber. Let's roll to see if the sun helps him. Oh crap, it did not. So he takes 2 hits. He can use his luck for 1 of them. So this is Freeling. So mission 1, he used his luck for 1. But the sun didn't help him with the other, so he gets wing damage. Okay, and he does 1 damage to the bomber, and we just did a horrible game so far. Okay, so we're not gonna get victory points for anything but potentially this 1 bomber. That's it. So with that said, we're all done. Let's put back some cards. Tail card goes back. Nose card goes back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. By the way, you can only have 6 fighters in a wave. And I happened to do all 6 in this 1 wave. I could have withheld this particular guy back, but I didn't. Okay, so let's just start in the back here. We'll start with him. He's got a 2. All right, so he's 2. He's climbing. He is determined, so he takes a hit. So, but Fargan takes a hit. And he ends up returning there with damage. Okay, next guy is this one. It's a 2, determined. He's diving. He also takes a hit. And he does have the sun though, because the sun didn't protect him the last time. Let's see if it gets him this time. It does. So the sun mitigates that hit, and he dives this way and returns there. Okay, now we're doing this guy. Just climb rolling, and he's evasive, which is crazy because this card, if he was determined, would have been fine, but since he's evasive, he takes a hit. Nothing I can do. Who is this? This is Schmidt. I can use his luck. So mission 1, luck. He's evasive, so he climbs to there. Now we'll do this guy. He's got a 3. Oh my gosh. So, he is diving. Okay, nothing happens because there's no escorts in the game yet. So the bounced text doesn't trigger. All right, so he's gonna dive. He will make it back to here, but I believe he takes a hit. And there's nothing I can do about it because it's Adamite. Oh yes, there is. Remember, we saved him from the sun. So mission 1, he really does use his luck. Okay, let's do Mr. I'm already damaged, which is Freeling. And he's diving just like the other guy is. This is a 3. All right, so he takes a hit. He still has the sun, which does not help him. So a second hit counter goes on him. The sun goes away. And Freeling is diving this way with 2 hits. And we take that off. And last but not least, a 3, determined, and he takes a hit. And this is Kremler. Kremler still has his luck, so he will use that now. See why I love luck so much? And that's our State of the Union. Okay, so we finish the attack. We move on to turn 4. Okay, the move phase. There's nobody to move. Remember, you have to be in actual boxes to move. Everybody's in a return box. So that's what the return step is, right there. So the return step, now somebody did ask me, what's the difference between move and return if you do the exact same thing? In the basic game, you do the exact same thing, but there's 2 things you can do. Well, 1 thing you get to do, no, I'm sorry. 2 things you get to do in the move step that you cannot do in a return step. The first one is this little trick. I'm trying to find the exact name of it. It's in the advanced rules. Give me a second. It's called regroup. Okay, regroup is something. It's an optional rule. You can play it in the base game if you'd like. You don't have to do advanced game, but it's a mandatory for the advanced game. And the way regroup works is you take a stack of fighters, and it could be 1 fighter, it could be 10 fighters. It doesn't matter how many's there. And what you do is you reduce the turn limit by 1. So this would go down to 4 before the mission ends, and your tactical points goes up by however big the stack is. So if you have 10 fighters in 1 stack, you would actually get 10 tactical points. Yes, you would get a huge number of tactical points. But here's the thing. You consume your move action when you do that, and the fighters do not do anything else. They're just regrouping. That's it. So it's an option, and you cannot do that from the return box. So that's the first thing that a move does. The second thing that a move does that return doesn't allow you to do is you can pursue, which is the whole advanced rules. So I can pursue that bomber that fell out of the group there. So we're in the return step. I can't pursue with any of my guys. So this guy's going to move up 1. Remember, the damaged guys can't move. And these guys are going to move up 1. So now we go to escort. There are no escorts. We go to recovery. So now I got to deal with these. And these are bad. This guy here has a 9 on him. It's not good. And just as a refresher, during recovery, roll equal to or higher to avoid damage. So it would be just damage you can brush off. That, in case you saw correctly, didn't see it, it's a 9. So I have to roll a miracle roll here. And my son's not home. So he's going to be mad if I get him killed. So the elevator damage to the Buttfargen. He has, see it says elevator on it. So he goes to the elevator box. And then we have 2 of them here. So I'm going to start with the number 2 first. That's the easier one. And of course I roll a 1. Oh my goodness. So that's a fuselage. hit, so he goes to the fuselage box. You do not roll for the other one. Whatever the first one is, that's where he goes. So the other damage you had on him, ignore it. Just throw it all back in the cup. Okay, next. There is no blast and flak cohesion. So this element has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I rolled a 6. So nothing happens to the element. I don't think it matters. And then we go to attack. There is no attack. Next turn. We're going to move on to turn 5. And so what I'm going to do with turn 5 is I'm going to move step. And these 3 guys could attack here, right? Now here's the thing. I have to destroy the bombers to get victory points. If I cause these to fall out like this, I don't get victory points and I can't pursue them. So this is a very difficult decision. I could send some of them to try to do it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to send 2 of them to pursue the fighter. So you put them on turn 5 over here, and then I'll send Adamite in to... They don't have a lot of damage on them. We'll try to do this one. Okay, I'm at 46 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and stop, and I will follow up after the break.